Well, hello everyone. It is great to be here. I'm excited to be here today for a special training, and I'm excited. Thanks to everyone at Choral Club, especially Leonid and Eric, for giving me this invitation today. They wanted to bring this training to you because you are the tops of the tops, and you are the ones who are making things happen. And what I want to share with you today is how to give the very best presentations, how to communicate in the most effective way and convert at the highest level possible. And so thank you for everybody who put this event together and for the invitation. I can't wait to get started. You know, most people know me as a presentation coach. I'm Pat Quinn, and I actually didn't get my start as a professional speaker. I got my start as a professional magician and worked magic for 10 years professionally. After that time, I decided I needed to get a real job, so I became a school teacher. I taught high school math for 12 years. And during that time, I picked up an advanced degree in how adults learn, in how adults listen when we talk. And so I really bring two things to the table. The first is a little bit of stagecraft from my years of doing magic. And the second is a real understanding of how someone listens to you when you communicate. Now, I have one big goal. My goal is not that people would come up to you after you give a presentation and say, wow, you're an amazing communicator. My goal is not that you'd get an email or a text message after you talk to someone who says, wow, you're a really good speaker. My goal, my only goal every time you communicate is that whoever you are talking to would want to take the next step with you, would want to move forward with you, because I know that's when the real impact begins. When you're talking to someone about your products and they say, yes, I want to take the next step with you, that's when you start to impact their health and impact their life. When you're talking to someone about the business opportunity, about the financial opportunity that is available, and they say yes, that's when the real impact begins. That's when you can change their family finances. That's when you can change their future and their legacy. And when you're talking to someone prior to an event and they say, yes, I want to attend that event with you, I want to go to that event, that's when you can really change their practices, really change the size of their business, and really change their future. And so I know that getting people to say yes to the next step is the most important thing, that is our only measuring stick. And so everything that I'm going to talk to you about today is with that in mind, getting more people to say yes to the next step. I'm going to share with you a series of techniques today to change the way that you communicate, to change the way that you tell stories in the process of communicating with others. And all of them work whether you are talking one-to-one with one person or whether you are talking to a group of people. All of them work whether you are communicating online via Zoom or some other video conference or on the telephone. And all of them work when you're actually in the room with people. And so all of these techniques work, and they're not just my opinion. If you want an opinion on your communication, ask your sister. What I'm going to share with you is the research proven techniques that say these are the things that great communicators do to get more people to say yes and take the next step. Over the last 10 years, I've been fortunate enough to work with some of the greatest speakers in the world, speakers like Tony Robbins and Damon John and Grant Cardone, household names, famous, world famous people. But most of the people that I work with are not famous people. Most of the people that I work with are not even professional speakers. Most of the people that I work with every single day are business owners, just like you, who want to grow their business, attract new clients, grow their teams, and improve the skill levels of their teams. And speaking, communicating effectively is the best way to do that. And so today, in the next 45 minutes or so, I want to teach you 4 very specific things. I want to teach you the best way to share your product story with others. I want to share with you the best way to share your financial opportunity story with others. I want to share with you the best way to invite others to events, to invite your distributors and your team members to events. And I want to share at the end one special type of presentation that will be a game changer for you. This one type of presentation changes everything because it changes your business from a one-to-one business where you're selling things to a one-to-many business where you're positioned as an expert and get asked to speak at events and to larger groups. But we'll get to that. First, I want to talk to you about storytelling. The most important thing that you can do to grow your business, grow your team, and raise the skill levels of your team is to get better at storytelling. Your story, as you tell it, is the greatest marketing tool that you have to grow your business. And before we even get started, let me address something right away. Your story is enough. Sometimes when I talk about storytelling, people come to me and they say, Pat Quinn, you might have a story. The person who's in charge of me might have a story, but I don't have a story. My story is boring. My story is ordinary. My story is not special. And I want to tell you today, let's stop saying that. Your story is enough, just as it is. You don't have to make things up. You don't have to try to be like someone else. You don't have to add things to make it more exciting. As a matter of fact, the more boring your story is, or maybe we should say, the more ordinary your story is, the more powerful your story is. You see, I coach someone who has climbed to the top of Mount Everest. I coach two people who have been in space. I coach two different people who've been in space, in rockets. And when they tell that story about being in space, about going up into space, launching in a rocket, how many other people can relate to that story? Very few. But I also coach people who talk about in their presentation that they come home from work at the end of the day and they're tired. I coach people who say that sometimes in the middle of the afternoon, they run out of energy and they can't concentrate. When they tell a story like that they can't concentrate in the middle of the day or they're tired at the end of the day, how many other people can relate to that? Everybody. What if we judged the stories that we told, not based on how many people came up to us afterwards and said, wow, that was an amazing story? What if instead we judged the stories that we told based on how many people came up to us afterwards and said, that same thing happens to me? You see, your very best stories are your most ordinary stories. And you might not think they're special, but they have a very special purpose. And that is to connect you to the person who you're speaking to. That is to relate to the person that you're speaking to and have the person that you're speaking to see their life in your life. If your story is 1 in a million, you will help 1 in a million people. But if your story is 1 in every house, then you will help a lot of people. I know part of this equation is about money, but I'm more excited about the impact that you're going to have in the lives and the health of the people who you can share your story with. Because when done correctly, sharing your story is not just the greatest marketing tool that your company will have. Sharing your story is the tool that will give you the biggest impact. You can be loaded with all of the facts in the world, but facts don't convince people and facts don't sell. You know what facts do? Facts start arguments. What convinces people? What sells people? The answer is stories. And so we want to get really good at telling stories. So I'm going to teach you a model for telling stories quickly and simply, because the best stories are not long stories. The best stories are relatively short stories. The best stories are not complicated with lots of ups and downs. The best stories are simple stories, simple and short. And I'm going to teach you how to tell any story in 3 minutes. That's all it takes, is 3 minutes to tell a great story. This model of telling stories, this way of telling stories, is called the 3-act play. And it's called the 3-act play because there are 3 acts. I made up the name myself. The first act is called Act 1. The second act is called Act 2. And the third act is called Act 3. Now, it only takes 3 minutes to tell your story this way. Here's how it goes. We call the first act the before, okay? Before. And you get 60 seconds to describe what your life was like before the change, before the product, before anything. And in the best 3-act play, you're going to break it down to 3 things that describe your life before, okay? Now, before I go deeper into this, I want you to think about the problem that your story is going to solve. So we're going to start first with a product story, okay? When you first meet someone who is unfamiliar with your set of products, I want you to think, pick one of your products or a group of your products and ask yourself, what problem does this solve? And I want you to be as specific as possible, because here's what I know. People don't sit around each day hoping that somebody comes by with some products. People don't sit around each day thinking that people are going to come by with a system or a process. You know what people sit around with every single day? They sit around with problems. I've never woken up once and said, I hope somebody comes by with products today. I've never woken up and said, I hope somebody comes by with a process today. But I do wake up every day with some problems. Each of your products, each of your groups of products, solves some specific problems. Some of your products will solve the problem of regularity, of energy, of overall health. Many of your products solve the problem of hydration. You have skin products that help me with dry skin, itchy skin, unhealthy skin, no structure in my skin. You've got products that solve different problems, okay? And so the first time you talk to someone and you're telling them your story, I would pick one of your products. I would pick a popular product, and I would start describing your life before you had this product, okay? And so when you describe what your life is like before, you get 60 seconds to say what your life was like before, okay? And you can break it down to 3 specific characteristics. So let's start with a simple product. Let's take a skincare product, maybe an emu oil product, which helps moisturize your skin. If I wanted to tell a story about this product and get the person who was listening to me to think about using this product, I might say, 6 months ago, I used to have really dry skin. I was itching all the time with left my skin red and scratched and dry, very dry. It would often even flake. And I was getting a lot of wrinkles in places that I didn't want wrinkles. My skin didn't have enough structure, partly because it was so dry. So now we've got some characteristics: dry, itchy, wrinkly. I get 60 seconds to describe that, which brings us to Act 2. Act 2 is actually what we call the pivot. The pivot is when the story changes. The pivot, in this case, is when I get introduced to a product. And then a friend of mine introduced me to emu oil. I'd never heard of this before, and I didn't know if it would work, but I tried it. You get 30 seconds to describe the pivot. Okay, what happened? Somebody introduced you to a product you'd never heard of before. Maybe you were a little skeptical. People are often skeptical of new products. And you tried it. That's it. Which brings us to Act 3. Remember, Act 1 was the before, and we had 60 seconds to describe our life before. Act 2 is the pivot, and now we're in Act 3, which is what is life like now or after the pivot, depending upon how long ago it happened. And you get 60 seconds to describe what your life is like now. Now, in the best 3-act play, the after has 3 characteristics. Now, watch this very carefully. In the very best 3-act plays, the first characteristic becomes the first characteristic over here. The second characteristic over here becomes the second characteristic over here. And the third characteristic over here becomes the third characteristic over here. And I'm going to remind you of that. So altogether, when I get to the back end here, after the pivot, once I started trying the new product, watch how I do this now. And now, instead of having dry skin, my skin is moist. Instead of being itchy all the time, I'm never itchy and I'm never flaky. And instead of me having wrinkles, my face now has more structure and more smoothness, all because of this. Now, if you do this correctly, you've got to match a couple of things. There's two ways that you can get this wrong. The first way that you can get this wrong is if this does not describe the life of the person you're talking to. And so if I give that 3-act play that I just gave, where my skin is dry and my skin is itchy and I'm starting to get wrinkles, if the person sitting in front of me isn't experiencing any of that, this isn't going to work. They're just going to sit there because it's not connecting. On the other hand, if the person sitting in front of me connects with these three things, and by the way, you will know immediately if they are connecting. How do you know? Because the person sitting in front of you will immediately begin nodding their head and leaning in. It is the surest sign. The surest sign of all that this is working in the beginning, that you're connecting, is when the person sitting in front of you is nodding. By the way, it works online as well as it works in the room with someone. If I'm sitting across the table with you at a coffee house and you're nodding and leaning in, I'm connecting. If I'm sitting across the table from you at a coffee house and your arms are folded and you're leaning back, I might be thinking, oh, good, you're getting comfortable. Oh, no, you're disconnecting. If I'm connecting, you will nod and lean in. But here's the funny thing, it works online too. I can be on a Skype call, a Zoom call, a video call, and you should be nodding and leaning into the camera. Not only does it work one-on-one, if you're ever speaking to a group of people, like you have like 5 people in a living room, or you're just at a table of 4 of your girlfriends and you're watching this, they should be nodding when you do this. That's the first thing. The second way that you can get this wrong is if this is not what they want. When I describe this, they should be wanting this. If you don't want moist skin, if you don't want smooth skin, if you don't want to stop itching, this isn't going to work. This has to describe your life now, and this has to describe the life that you want. And if either one of those miss, this doesn't work. But when this does describe your life now, and you will be nodding and leaning in, and this does describe what you want, you will do anything to get the pivot. I won't have to sell you the pivot. You will ask me for the pivot. I don't even have to name the product. I could do this whole presentation without naming the product. I could say I have dry skin, itchy skin, and I had wrinkles. And then my friend introduced me to a cream that I put on my skin, not naming it. And today, instead of dry skin, I have moist skin. Instead of itchy skin, I don't have any itchy skin or flaking. And instead of having wrinkles, I now don't have wrinkles. My skin is smoother than ever. I wouldn't even have to name the product. And you know what you would do if you were listening to this? You would ask me for the product. Now I'm not pushy. I'm not salesy. I'm not irritating. I'm not offensive. You're begging me. You're asking me for the name of the product. And that is a much better position to be in because now you're coming to me. So here's what you need to know. This is really important. And the most important thing I can tell you about getting these 3 characteristics right is that I want you to do them in the language of the customer, not in the language of the expert. You see, since you've been with Coral Club, and since you have risen up in the ranks to the top of the top where you are now, you've become an expert. You've become an expert in the process that you help people with. You've become an expert in your products and their ingredients and their benefits. And sometimes when you become an expert and you hang out with other experts, like you are at this event, you start to change the words that you use. You start to speak a different language. You use words like concept, like hydration, like hydrates. You use words that other people don't use every single day. One of the hardest things for any expert to do is to remember what words they used to use to describe the problem before they became such an expert on the topic, before you had a solution to the problem. Now that you have a solution, you use a bunch of words. You use words like detox and hydrate and immunity. But most people don't use words like that. Most people use words like, I don't feel so good. I feel tired. My skin is dry. I don't know why I always lack energy or why I'm confused in the afternoon. I don't know why I always have, I feel a little bit sick. I seem to catch more things than other people catch. I seem to get sick more often than most people get sick. Sometimes I'm constipated, or sometimes I feel irregular. They don't have all the fancy words that you have yet. And so it's really important when you're describing this that you don't use any of your fancy words, that you don't use the name of any of your products, probably none of the ingredients of your products, because a person listening to this for the first time wouldn't know any of those words. And if you use words that I don't know, I'm not going to be like, wow, that's me. Your goal at the end of this is that the person is leaning in saying, that's exactly what I'm experiencing right now. Wow, you know exactly what I'm experiencing. A great question that I like to ask people is to think about your ideal customer. Think about somebody you're going to have a meeting with next week, or have lunch with, or coffee with, or a phone call with next week, to talk to them about your products. The night before that meeting, the night before you ever show them a product, talk to them about a product, or explain your company to them, what were they complaining about to their best friend, to their spouse, to their sister? What were they complaining about, and what words did they use to complain about it? You get those words right, and you'll know you got them right because the person sitting in front of you will be nodding their head and leaning in. You get those words right, and you probably have the sale already. You get those words wrong, and all the ingredients in the world, all the process in the world, all the scientific research and discovery and testimonials in the world won't matter. Why won't they matter? Because you didn't understand their problem. I've heard it said that you should spend less time trying to get the person you're talking to understand you, and more time making sure that they know that you understand them. Robert Cialdini is a researcher. He calls this pacing and leading. Everybody wants to be a leader. You want to lead others to your products, to your business, to your events. But you can't lead until you pace. What's pacing? Pacing is actually just walking alongside someone and listening to them. Pacing is saying, I understand your problem. Pacing is throwing your arm around someone and saying, I get it. This stinks. This is a real problem, and I've been there. Best thing you can do when you tell your story is get these words right. And if you say some words and the person doesn't start nodding, try some different words. You'll find the ones that work for everybody. And when you get those words right, you'll use them every time. You might start saying, hey, you know, this product helps people. This is a cleanse. It's going to help you with constipation. And that doesn't work. Nobody nods. So the next time you try it, you might say, this will help you with a feeling of bloated. Do you feel bloated? That might work. It might not. The next time you might try it and say, some days you just feel, you wake up and you just don't feel right. You just don't feel your best. And then they start nodding. You might have to try some things, but if you get these words right, you're going to make the sale right here. And then what do they really want? When you tell them what they really want, they will smile. They can't help but smile. Now, if you describe, moist skin, beautiful skin, non-itchy skin, no wrinkles, and they're like, who wants that? You got the words wrong. But when you describe something they really want, in the words that they would use to describe it, not your fancy expert words, they're going to break into a big smile. And then they'll do anything to get the pivot. Price will not be a factor. Obstacles like, oh, we have to ship this, or oh, you're going to have to sign up and fill out some paperwork, or oh, it won't be available until next week. None of that will be a factor. When you describe the problem and you describe their dreams, they will do anything to get the pivot. They will pay anything, jump over any obstacle. They will ask you for it. If you don't give it to them, they'll track you down, call you, text you, email you, hit you up on social media. They'll do anything to get the pivot. And so in your product presentation, which I believe should be different than your financial opportunity presentation, if you understand how the human brain works, the human brain solves one problem at a time. It is rare that the human brain is thinking about two problems at the same time, and it certainly doesn't try to solve two problems at a time. If in your first encounter with someone, you try to solve a health problem that they have and a financial problem that they have at the same time, that's not a recipe for a high level of success. What will give you the highest level of success, the highest level of yes, is to solve one problem at a time. And the first problem to solve is with the products, which could be a health problem, a hydration problem, could be a skin problem. You know the problems that your product solves. Solve that one first. Once they have a solution to that one and they're using your products, now we're ready for our second presentation. The second type of presentation that can use this exact same model is the financial opportunity. The financial opportunity follows the same model. It's just a different problem. Okay. Now, becoming a distributor with Coral Club solves a number of financial problems. It solves a number of problems that you have. For some people, it's strictly financial. I didn't have enough money, and now I will have more money. For some people, it's a freedom proposition. I had a job working for a boss, working set hours, and now I have freedom. I am my own boss, and I set my own schedule. That's different than straight financial. For some people, it's purpose. I was bored in life. I wasn't feeling like I was contributing. There has to be more to life than this. And now I found a way that I can help others, serve others, and I wake up every day with purpose. The financial opportunity, the opportunity of becoming a team member or a distributor on your team, solves a number of problems. You get to tell a story about this, and it is the 3-act play. Maybe you just want to tell a straight financial story. A straight financial story might sound like this. 2 years ago, I was really struggling. Every month I would pay my bills, but there wouldn't be enough to pay all the bills. I wasn't saving any money at all, and I was falling further and further in debt. That's a great before. And if the person in front of you isn't making enough money, has too many bills, and is falling further and further in debt, you know what they're going to be doing at this point? I know what you're talking about. That's my situation. I was just complaining to my sister about it last night, that I don't have enough money to pay the bills, and I'm certainly not saving any money for retirement or to pay for a vacation or anything like that. That's my story. Then a friend of mine introduced me to an opportunity. They said there was a way that you could serve others and make money at the same time. Now, I was skeptical. I didn't want to fall for a scam. I didn't want to be taken advantage of. I was skeptical, but I tried it. Now, today, instead of not having enough money to pay the bills, I have enough money to pay the bills with some left over. Instead of not saving any money, I have money left over at the end of every month, and I'm putting it away so I can take my family on vacation. And instead of getting further in debt, I have started to pay off my loans and my credit cards and my debt. Now, if the person you're speaking to has debt, has trouble paying the bills, and they want to be debt-free, and they want to go on vacation, and they want a better financial future, they will beg you for the answer. You don't have to say, oh, I have an opportunity for you. They're going to be like, well, what'd you do to teach? Can I get in on this? Can I do this as well? I want to do this with you. Now, if the person you're talking to has no financial struggles at all, this won't work. Or if the person you're talking to doesn't want to make more money, go on vacation, or get rid of debt, I don't know who that would be, but if that's the case, then this won't work. But if the person you're talking to is struggling financially and they want to be financially in a good position, you won't have to sell them anything. They will beg you. They will ask you for it. They will listen to it. You can do it on the next call. You can do it anytime you want. And it only takes 2.5 minutes. Now, there might come a time when they ask questions. There might come a time when they say, well, what about this? I don't know about this. And then you have to have a different story to tell. But in the opening story on the financial presentation, on the financial opportunity, this is a 3-act play. But you have to know the person in front of you. If the person in front of you is not struggling financially, that's not the right story to tell. What if the person in front of you just hates their current job? They make a lot of money at it, but they hate their current job. Well, then you should change your story. See, the purpose of storytelling is to connect with the person you're speaking to. So a good piece of advice for everyone is to know who you're speaking to. Let's say my sister says, I have a friend at work who might be interested in working with you. Happens all the time. You get a referral. Your sister says, I have a person at work who might be interested in working with you. You know what you should say? Tell me about them. Are they struggling financially? And your sister might say, no, they just hate their boss. That's going to change the story I'm going to tell. Because now the story I'm going to tell is that 2 years ago, I was in a job that I hated with a boss that I hated, and I didn't know how to get out of it. I hated waking. I hated every day I had to go to work. I would dread it. I'd hit the alarm clock 4 times and try to stay under the covers. I just did not like my job or my boss, and I didn't see a future. But then a friend talked to me about Choral Club. And at first I was skeptical because honestly, it sounded too good to be true. But as I did more research into it and learned more about it, I realized that this might be a good fit for me. And now watch. Today, instead of hating my job, I actually love what I do every day because I get to help people with their health, help them through a guided process, teach them things. And I love it. I don't hate my boss because I am my boss. I get to choose when I work. I get to choose how hard I work. I have control over my own destiny. And I don't dread the future. I'm looking forward to my future because things are just getting better and better and better. Now, if the person in front of you hates their boss and hates their job, and by the way, I know that they do. Why? Because I asked my sister before I scheduled this call, I asked my sister, tell me a little bit about this person. Or when that person came in or I got on the phone with them, I asked them what their life was like right now. And they told me they hated their job. I listened before I talked. And then when it was time to tell my story, I matched my story to their story so that I got a yes with their head and they leaned in. And I know they want more. I know they want freedom and to be their own boss. I don't have to sell them this business opportunity. I don't have to talk them into it or trick them into it. If I wouldn't offer it to them and I would just be like, thanks for coffee, I'll see you next week. They'd be like, no, don't leave. You told me that you figured this out. Tell me how you did it. They will beg you for it. They will ask, and price won't be a factor. Obstacles won't be a factor. Having to go to training, having to sign paperwork, having to make a deposit, having to pay money, having to work, it won't matter because you solved a problem that they had. For some people, that is a money problem and a money story works. For other people, that is a freedom, I hate my job problem and a freedom, become your own boss story works. For some people, that is a purpose in life. You know what it is for a lot of people? A loneliness story. I felt like I had no support. I felt like I had no friends. And I felt like I wasn't helping others because I wasn't getting out much. Well, then a friend introduced me to this great opportunity called Coral Club and a great team full of people who not only have become my coworkers and my team, but they have become my friends. Today, instead of being lonely, I now get together once a week online with a group of people who support me and listen to me. Instead of feeling like I have no support in what I'm trying to do, I feel like I have places I can turn, people I can talk to, and people both above me and below me and alongside of me who have become not just coworkers, but friends. And instead of going through life alone, I'm going through life in community. That's a great story for the right person. You have to match your story to their story. So rule number one, when you get a referral, ask about the person. Tell me about them. Are they struggling financially? Do they hate their job? Are they lonely? Do they not have purpose in life? If you can't do that, when you get into the conversation with a person, ask them to speak first. Tell me a little bit about life right now. What would you change about life right now? What are you struggling with? And then when you tell your story, match it to theirs, and they will be amazed how similar the two of you are. They'll be amazed how good the timing was that you came along at this perfect time in their life when they were struggling with something that you had been struggling with. And it's not a coincidence, but it is a tool that will serve you well every single time you tell your story. It only takes 2.5 minutes. If you have a 45-minute presentation, you're doing it wrong. You will connect in 2.5 minutes and they'll want the pivot. Now, as you go forward, you might have to teach them more. And certainly as you onboard them onto your team, you'll have to teach them more. But most people make the decision whether to buy someone or join someone in the first 3 or 4 minutes. And they do it based on whether or not they connect on where they are and connect on their dreams. The third type of presentation that I would like you to become really good at, third type of conversation and communication that I think it's important to have stories around, is events. Events are one of the greatest tools that you can do to duplicate yourself and equip your team. And getting your team members, getting your distributors to go to events is extremely important. So let's say there's a big event coming up in July. Let's say it's called the Forum, the Coral Club Forum, okay? It's gonna be great this year. I'm sure many of you are already looking forward to it, but you don't wanna be there alone. You want your team to be there. You want everybody on your team to be there. Well, have I got a story for you. I present the 3-act play. You know, a couple of years ago, I was in your position. I was in one of the lower ranks. I was a director and I was struggling. I was struggling to get new customers. I was struggling to get new team members. I was actually struggling to make any money at all. And nothing was changing. I would try the stuff that other people said worked and it just wasn't working for me. And then the person who introduced me to Coral Club invited me to come to the forum. And it was amazing. Oh my word. It was fun. It was exciting, but it changed everything. I learned so much. Today, instead of struggling to get new customers, I now have 3 or 4 new customers coming in every single week. Instead of struggling to grow my team, I'd gone a year and only had one team member, one distributor. Now this week alone, I have 7 phone calls set up to talk to people about joining my team. And instead of not making any money, my income has gone up 10 times, tenfold of what it was before I attended the forum. And I'm telling you at this point, if the team member that you're talking to, your brand new team member, or your team member who's been stuck at director level for the last 6 months or 12 months or 2 years, if they look like this, and when you were describing like, I just can't grow my team, I still only have one person below me, or I've never added a team member, and I'm not making money. My spouse is like, what are you doing? You're spending so much time on this, you're not making any money. The person in front of you going like this, who wants this, it really doesn't matter what the price of the ticket is. It really doesn't matter where the event is. It could be a virtual event or it could be halfway around the world. If they nod on this and this describes them, and when they hear this, they're like, that's what I want. I want customers every week. I want 7 phone calls scheduled. I want my income to go up 10x. You don't have to sell them this. They're going to beg you for this. They're going to ask you, what was the event? Tell me what the event was called. Is there another one? Are they going to hold another one? When's the next one? I want to go to that event. Will you go with me? Of course I'll go with you. That's what I do. It's a story. It's not a set of facts. It's not sales. It's a story. And there's 2 ways you can get it wrong. You can use too many fancy words here. You can use too many fancy words that they don't know. If you're talking to somebody who's never been in Coral Club, don't use the word director and executive and rank. Don't use that. Use make more money, have more purpose, have more freedom, get more friends. Don't use your fancy expert words. If you're going to an event, or you're asking somebody to go to an event, don't use words from that event. Oh, they do this special thing at the event. Don't do that. Just say it's fun. You will learn. Your business will grow. Simple language that is not expert language. But one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they start describing the products, the business opportunity, or the events is they use the words of somebody who's already doing it in front of a person who hasn't done it yet. And there's this disconnect. And when you get to the end, the person says, maybe, or the person says no, or more likely, the person says nothing. You missed on the language. But if they're nodding here and they're smiling here, you got them. They're going to ask. If they don't ask, you can invite. But you got them. And price is not a factor. Time is not a factor. Obstacles are not a factor. So that is the 3-act play. It's one of the most important things that you can do in your business. You should have 3-act plays ready to go. A product one around a specific set of products. You've got some really popular products that are often lead products like Coral Mine. You should have a story for that. Before you knew about Coral Mine, you had these problems. Somebody introduced you to it, and now it's like this. Make sure when you describe the problems you had, they will match the person in front of you. Kalavata, the same thing. What were the things that you were experiencing beforehand? So the person in front of you goes like this. And what are the things you're experiencing now that will make the person smile if they had those? And you won't have to sell that product to anybody. They will ask you about that product. You can do that for any one of your products. And you might want to change the product you talk about first based on the person you're talking to and the problems that they have. Match this, and you won't have to sell this. They will come asking for it. So I want to teach you one other type of presentation. And this is different from the others. These are essential. The 4th type of presentation that I want to teach you is like only for the people who want to go further. It's only for people who want to like blow the roof off the place and really be top line. This is one that's going to change your business forever if you do it, but you don't have to do it. It's just for some of you. Some of you will be uncomfortable doing this one because you don't want to be under the spotlight. You don't want to speak in front of groups of people. You don't want to be viewed as an expert. But I know this, that people who have their own businesses who can master this fourth presentation type see their business grow in ways that they never thought possible. So I want to teach this one to you. These three, the product presentation, the opportunity presentation, and the event presentation, they're essential for growing your business, growing your team, and increasing the skill levels of your team. But this last one is called the expert presentation. And the reason it's called the expert presentation is because we are not going to position you as a salesperson with a product or a salesperson with an opportunity. We are going to position you as an expert. And the first thing we need is a topic. What is your expert topic? And the topic cannot be products, and the topic cannot be business opportunity. The topic should be related to your product. So I think you should pick a health-related topic, okay? Now, here are some topics that might work for you. How to have more energy every day. That would be a great topic. How to have more energy every day. How to eliminate brain fog, or how to eliminate confusion in the afternoon. If you're feeling like you're not as sharp as you used to be, I can help with that. Or how to look better in your clothes. How to not feel bloated. Belly fat and brain fog, two things that will always be problems that people have. If you just had a presentation called Eliminate Belly Fat and Brain Fog, you could speak anywhere. There are so many places that you could speak. Now, when you speak, you are not going to talk about your products, and you are not going to talk about your business opportunity. What are you going to do? You're going to help people. You're just going to help them. Why? Because your goal of this presentation is not to sell anything. Your goal of this presentation is to be positioned as an expert. Your goal of this presentation is so that people start to view you not as somebody who sells products, but as someone who is an expert in health, someone who is an expert in reducing belly fat, or reducing brain fog, or healthy skin, or feeling more energetic. It doesn't matter what it is. I want you to put together a 20-minute presentation that will have 4 parts. The first part of the presentation is a story. You might already know about this story because it's a 3-act play. You just start with your 3-act play. I used to have belly fat. I used to have brain fog. I used to not have a lot of energy. Then I discovered a solution. Do not name the product. You are not here to sell products. Then I discovered some things that work. I discovered a solution. Today, instead of having belly fat, I feel like I don't carry that extra weight and bloating. Instead of having brain fog, I feel sharp and I can concentrate all afternoon. And instead of not having energy, I have more energy than I've ever had before. And so in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to teach you some things that will help you. And so the second part of your presentation, we often call content, but it has one goal. The goal is to help people. And you have to be able to help them without selling products. You cannot name your products. If you name your products, you're a salesperson and the whole thing doesn't work. You have to have advice and tips on how to help them have less belly fat, have less brain fog, have more energy, whatever your topic is. And I would pick a very specific topic: energy, or belly fat, or concentration, or healthy skin. You have to be able to help them. 10 minutes of content that will help them. Now, as you've risen in the ranks of Coral Club, you probably have picked up quite a bit of knowledge about ingredients. You probably have picked up quite a bit of knowledge of a process of helping people. without the products mentioned. What is the process? Get better hydration. What's the next step? What's the next step? You can teach that process without mentioning products or the name of your company. In the end, your goal is to help them. So they walk away and they say, wow, that was really helpful. I learned a lot. Then you want to give them what we call a call to action or a next step. The next step is not to buy anything. It's absolutely essential, because if you are selling something in this presentation, you aren't going to be able to get it on stages. You aren't going to be able to get asked to speak. But if the next step is just to learn more, you can contact me to learn more. You can sign up for my newsletter to learn more. You can schedule a 10-minute or 15-minute phone call with me to learn more. If what I talked to you about today was interesting to you or helped you, and you want to learn more, sign up and we'll schedule a phone call. Sign up and I'll put you on my mailing list, whatever it is, if you want to learn more. And the last thing you need to do is inspire them. You can be healthier. You can have better skin. You can have energy like you used to. You can do it. And leave them walking out of there feeling good. They connect with you. They learn from you. They know how to keep in touch with you, and you inspire them. On the day that you give this presentation, you will sell 0 products and you will get 0 team members added to your team. But in the 2 weeks after you give this presentation, anybody who was there and connected with your story, anybody who was there and learned from you, and anyone who was there who was inspired by you will contact you to learn more. And then you will sell more products than you've ever sold before, gain more team members than you've ever sold before. The key to this is not to sell the products or name the company in the presentation. You are an expert. And because of that, you are helping people. And because of that, you will get asked to speak. Every day, in every town and every city, in every country in the world, there are groups of people and there's someone speaking to them. Whether that's a group of ladies at a church, a group of men at a club, whether it's a group of people at a library, whether it's online in a Facebook group or in a meetup, there are people being asked to speak because they are experts on topics. If you did nothing else but go onto Facebook or onto social media somewhere and say, I'm giving an online presentation this weekend, or if you put notices up in your town and said, this weekend I'm giving a presentation on how to have healthier skin, great looking skin, some people would sign up. And now instead of selling your products one-to-one, you're speaking to 10 people at a time. Instead of talking about your business opportunity one-to-one, you're being viewed as an expert in front of 30 people, 15 of which will contact you to learn more. When was the last time you started a week with 15 appointments, 15 conversations scheduled? Most importantly, this is duplicatable. You have team members that are not growing, team members that are not selling. And if you can give a presentation and have people learn more from them or teach them how to give this presentation, it changes everything. And so if you want to accelerate the growth of your team, if you want to accelerate the growth of your product sales, learn how to give an expert presentation. That is a 20 to 30 minute presentation on a topic. The topic is not your products or your business opportunity. The topic in your particular case, because of your product line and the company that you work for, is probably health related, probably related to the feeling after a cleanse, obviously related to hydration. It could be specific on bloating, specific on skin health, specific on energy, because you've got product lines around all of those. tell a great story, offer great content, inspire the audience, and they will contact you in large numbers to learn more. That is the fourth type of presentation. Not for everybody. You're going to have team members, and maybe some of you aren't comfortable being the expert, aren't comfortable being on stage or online in front of a large group of people. But if you are comfortable being the expert, being on stage or being online in front of a large group of people, this one can add dozens of customers in a single day, can add 10 or 20 or 30 team members in a week. This one changes everything. The first three all used the 3-act play: a product presentation, an opportunity presentation, and an event presentation. You can do this. Most importantly, you can teach your team members to do this. If there is one skill that I want you to teach to your team that will change the growth pattern of your business, it is storytelling. Teach them to tell great stories. Work on their stories with them. Practice in front of each other. Coach them on this. And you will see new growth. You will see new revenue. And you'll see a new future for you, your team, and your growth and your company. And so that is storytelling. Today we talked about 4 different types of stories. 3 of them use the 3-act play model. We talked about the product presentation, the opportunity presentation, and getting people to sign up and attend events on your team. All 3 of those use a 3-act play. I also shared with you the expert presentation signature talk, which is something that's extra. It's not required, but when you do it, it changes everything. As a special treat today, we've got a couple of people who've agreed to try to tell us their story. And I believe Angela is going to go first. And I'm going to offer some coaching. And what you're going to hear in these stories is that they tell stories much like you do. And everybody can get better at telling their stories. And so, Angela, I'm so thankful that you and Edward are here today and that you're going to tell us stories. They're not going to be perfect. And here's what I want everybody to see when you tell your story, that your story is not perfect. I think one of the big reasons why people, especially when they get started, that they don't tell their story a lot is because they're not perfect yet. And here's what I know. If you wait until your story is perfect, you'll never share it with anybody. You got to get out there and tell your story a lot of times. And so, Angela, are you ready for this?
I will try.
You will try. All right. So you have your choice. We haven't talked and we haven't met. We haven't prepared, and I haven't coached you on this at all. Do you want to tell us, try to tell us a 3-act play that has to do with a product? Do you want to do it with the financial opportunity of joining your team? Or do you want to try to talk me into coming to one of your events? Which one would you like to try?
I can tell about the product, about my
Okay, let's
health.
hear a product story. It should take 3 minutes or less, and it should have a clear before and an after. And whenever you're ready, you can just go, and then we'll talk afterwards. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. I hope everybody watching this right now is giving some love to Angela, because she doesn't know what's happening or what's coming here. We haven't talked before, and this is really courageous. I just want to applaud you. I hope everybody watching this is applauding you and giving you some love, because this is scary stuff, doing this in front of all these people and do it in front of somebody who you know is going to offer you some advice afterwards. So first of all, Angela, I want to thank you and applaud you. I think your courage is a great model for everybody, and I hope they're all showing you some love right now. So, all right, whenever you are ready, Angela.
Hi, my name is Angela Falashai, and I live right now in Hawaii, in America. And before this, I live in Ukraine. I grew up in Ukraine. And when I was 30 years old, I came to America. I moved to America. And I worked so hard. I tried to survive in America because I was become single mom and I got married again, like I get married twice. And of course, because we work so hard, my health got so bad. I have so many migraines in my life. I work every weekend, and usually on the end of the weekend, I have a migraine. And this has happened often and more often and more often. And I looking for what can I do, make sure I can change this. And I took every kind of pills under the counter what exists, and my digestion became really bad. And guess what? I found the program Change Yourself in 90 Days, and after I went to this program, my I don't have any migraines anymore. My digestion system become awesome. I don't have any problem with my digestion system. And guess what? I don't work anymore so hard because I find the freedom for my life too. I know exactly if you look in some things like this, like if you have some like headaches or migraines, I think you can call me and I can more explain how to win in the program Change Yourself in 90 Days.
Woo! What a great story that is. Wow. Now, be honest with us. Have you told this story before, or is this something that you just learned in the last hour?
I was just so shaken and I tried to tell, I don't know what came to my mind.
I love it. For the first time, having just learned about this in the last hour, this is so good already. And the more you do this, the more you practice this, the better this is going to get. And so this is absolutely amazing. Let's point out, let's make sure everybody saw all the things that you did and how amazing this is. And so you start out with just a little bit about your situation, which is really good because now people know who you are. But then you hit us with the first half of the 3-act play. You're a single mom working really hard. Because you were working so hard, your health started to decline. Specifically, you started to get migraines. Now, here's what I want to encourage you, Angela, because not everybody who's watching you, if you're talking to someone across the table or on Zoom, or you're meeting somebody for coffee, not everybody is going to have their problem be migraines. And you may not know. So when you mention migraine and you say, oh, at the end of every weekend, I would have this headache. Oh, it's terrible migraine. Watch them. And if they nod, or as we say, if they bite on it, like if they are like, oh, I have those too, then you can keep hammering on the migraines. But if when you say migraines or headaches, they don't do anything, just leave it alone and move on to other parts of the story, because your story has other things in it. Your story has fatigue, your story has hydration, your story has gut health, your story has a lot in it. And what you're looking for when you're naming all these different things is something that catches with them. Like, I was tired all the time. Maybe I wasn't sleeping well at night. Nope, they didn't move on that. Go on. I had a migraine. And they start nodding. Then the rest of your story should be about migraines. But if that doesn't hit, maybe it's just the tiredness. When you say single mom, if they're like, oh, yeah, I was married twice too. Like, then your point is to connect. Your point is to get them saying, that's me. Your story is my story. So if you try something and they don't connect, let it go. But if you try something and you connect, then hit it hard. Keep going there. And that'll really help you connect. Then you had a pivot. Your pivot was, I found a program called Change Your Life in 90 Days. If it were me, and there's more than one right way to do this, but if it were me, I wouldn't name the program here in the middle of my story. I would just say somebody introduced me to a program. Maybe I'd say it was a 90-day program, but I would not name the program. When you name the program, the person can say, no thanks, goodbye, and then they can go Google it or find it a different way. Also, I want them to be a little curious about the program. My ultimate goal is at the end, they would ask me, not me telling them. So I would just say I found a program. And now, after that program, instead of being tired, I wasn't as tired. My headaches went away, my migraines went away, and I just feel better. Now, at this point, if this connected and this connected, they will probably ask. If they don't ask, you can say, the name of the program was Change Your Life in 90 Days. If you're experiencing some of this and you want some of this, it might work for you. Is that something you think you'd want to try? I mean, it's such a natural conversation at this point. If these are connecting, if these not are connecting, they might not be right for this opportunity. That's okay too. And you'll find that out really quickly. Yeah, I'll point out one other great thing that you did, Angela, that I absolutely love. You also talked about something that you tried that didn't work. I tried pills. I tried all sorts of different medications to get rid of the migraine, and none of them worked. And I just love that, because a lot of people who are ready for our offer have tried other things. That's a great part of your financial offer too. It's a different 3-act play for your financial opportunity. But in a 3-act play for your financial opportunity, when you're talking about how you're struggling because you're a single mom and you're working so hard, and I tried other things. I tried something I found on the internet. I tried another network marketing company, and it didn't work. To say that you tried things, a lot of times you can connect on the things that we've tried that didn't work. I tried working a second job, but that didn't work because I just had to pay more for babysitters. And if that connects, just keep going on that. And so I love the fact it was a really smart move to name something that you had tried that didn't work. And then this you tried and it did work. So amazing job. How did it feel? Do you feel like this is something you could use to grow your business? Is this something you're going to use in the future?
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you. You're courageous, you're bold, and I can see why you're growing, because you are willing to try things and you're willing to do it when it's not perfect. And I want that message to be heard again and again by everybody. If you wait until your story is perfect, you will never tell your story. The most important thing to do, as a matter of fact, all businesses have numbers. You keep track of lots of numbers. Everybody does. You keep track of how many new customers you have. You keep track of how many new team members you have. You keep track of how much you sell every month and how much revenue you make every month. Well, here's a number I think everybody watching this should keep track of. How many times each week do you tell your story? How many times each week do you tell a story to someone new? Because I know this, the higher that number is, the faster your business is going to grow. And on weeks when you don't tell your story a lot, your business simply isn't growing that much. So great job. Give some love to Angela. We love you, Angela, and I appreciate you being on here. All right, we are moving on. We've got one more bold volunteer who's willing to do this. Is it Ed or Edward? How do you like to be called?
You can call me Edward or Ed. Doesn't really matter.
Edward, how are you today?
I'm perfect. Just the only one thing is that I'm in my car because I had my internet fallen at home, so I needed to get to the gas station. So right now I'm in my car. Sorry about that.
All right, that's okay. The beauty of storytelling is you can do it in your car. So we appreciate the obstacles that you have overcome to be on here with us today, and I really hope everybody is showing you some love right now who's watching this, because it's courageous to come on here. We have not talked before. We have not prepared or coached you ahead of time. You've watched the presentation that everybody else is watching right now. And I'd love for you to tell us a story. Would you like to tell us a product story, a business opportunity story, or an event story to talk us into going to an event? Which one would you like to share with us today?
Yeah, I'd like to share a story about the event because I think it was crucial for me. So I would like to share this one.
About an event?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's hear the story.
Okay, yeah. So first of all, my name is Edward Kostyuk, and when I started this business, I was 19 years old. So actually, it was a little bit harder for me than for a lot more people because I was young and bold, and I needed more stuff to start for me to get money. But actually, I was really encouraged because when I first heard about the story of this business, I saw a lot of stories of people just like me who were successful, who has become successful here. And I was really encouraged. So I started to do everything that my mentors told me. So I started inviting people to the meetings. I started to write my contact list, and I saw that everything is gonna work just fine. But in half a year, I didn't get any paycheck here. So I was thinking what's wrong here? I was asking my mentors, what do I need to change? What do I need to do? And a lot of times I was hearing that you need to come to the event. And actually, this is just what happened with me. The first time I came to the event, and it was on my 7th month when I was here in this business in Coral Club. And after the event, everything changed, because this was the time when I get my first paycheck. Coming back, I think what was the most important thing there is the one thing that I changed after they went is I understood that I need to change myself mentally. I need to love this business more and don't think about like this paychecks, but more talk about what I have experienced here and what can people get here. So basically, this is like my story.
Woo, Edward! First time out, you did amazing. You matched the 3-act play. There's so much to love in this presentation. And I hope everybody watched both of these presentations. If you're watching this, were short. Did you hear that? Neither of them took more than 3 minutes. If you've got a 25-minute story, you're not helping people. And most people stop listening after the first 3 or 4 minutes. Great stories are short and simple stories with a clear before, a clear pivot, and a clear after. And so we hear it here. What I love most about this is how you're going to connect with team members who thought this was going to be easy, and it's more difficult than they think. And so you are 6 months in, you haven't made any money. And what I love, here's the part that I think will really resonate with people. You're watching others who it's working for, but it's not working for you. And I think one of the things, you know, Coral Club is not unique, but they highlight people who things are working for. And that's good, because you see on trainings and you see at events and you see on, you know, when your mentor's talking to you that, look at this person, they're growing, growing, growing. And you're like, I'm trying to, but it's not working for me. And so when you say that, you were watching others and it was working for them, but it's not working for you, you are going to get this. You're going to get like, oh my gosh, Edward, that's just like me. That is exactly like me. You are me. And no paycheck in 6 months. And then that's extremely common for people who are struggling. And what they need is an event. And so you went to an event. And then I love your line, and that changed everything. I went from no paycheck to getting my first paycheck. I went from having bad mindset to having good mindset. I mean, it's just a masterfully told story. And if you tell that story, you won't have to talk people into going to the event. All you have to do is say, there's an event just like the one I attended coming up. And I think anybody listening to your story is going to say, I want to go to that event too. I want to teach you one last thing, and then we're going to wrap this up. And I just want to once again thank Edward and thank Angela. Here's one improvement you can make to your story that's going to make a huge difference. Every story has an emotional line. The line is either going up or going down. Your story is very simple, as most stories are. Your story goes like this. In the first 6 months, I was not making any money, and I wasn't growing my team, and things weren't working. Then I attended the event. This is the pivot. And then things started to, my income went up, my team grew, my mindset improved. Okay. Here's how you tell the best story. Over here, when the line is going down, your volume should go down and your pace should go down. Volume is how loud you talk. Pace is how fast you talk. And so when you're talking in the first half of that story, I went 6 months and I didn't get a paycheck. Your volume should be lower and your pace should be slower. We often say low and slow. Once the story turns, once you attend the event and the story starts going up, your volume should go up and your pace should go up. After the event, everything changed. And so they should see a physical change in your volume and your pace in your body. So it might sound like this. In my first 6 months, I was trying, but I wasn't making a lot of money. I didn't get a paycheck for the first 6 months. Low and slow. Then I got invited in month 7, I got invited to an event. And that event changed everything. After I attended that event, I got my first paycheck, my team started to grow, and I had a better mindset. Fast and louder. When the emotional line's going down, your volume goes down and your pace goes down. When the emotional line goes up, your volume goes up and your pace goes up. And that helps the audience follow along on the whole story. So low and slow, fast and louder, and you are going to be an amazing storyteller. Edward, I love the fact that you came on here and shared your story with us. Thank you for doing that. It was courageous. Angela, same thing to you. I appreciate you guys being here today so we could do some live coaching on this event. I want everybody to notice that their stories weren't perfect, but they told them anyway. And that's what I want for you. I want you to get out there and tell your story. I don't want you to practice them until they're perfect. I don't want you to keep them inside until they're perfect. And most of all, I don't want you to think that your story isn't special enough or big enough or perfect enough to tell other people. Ordinary stories told by ordinary people are what change the world. And so I want to thank Choral Club for having me today. I want to thank everybody who participated in this, especially Edward and Angela. And I'll leave you with this. When you tell your story, other people know that they are not alone with the problems that they're struggling with. When you tell your story, other people know that there are real solutions. Solutions that your products can help, solutions that your business opportunity and your financial opportunity can help, solutions that events can help solve in their lives. And finally, when you tell your story, other people know that there is hope. So get out there and tell some great stories. Thank you very much for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity, and just keep telling your stories.